Hello and welcome everybody to the seventh episode of the Anti-Shuffle podcast, your local rock and metal podcast coming at you from Saudi. Mansour is back this week.
Hey, standing ovation.
And not a moment too soon. I mean, Ace, thank you so much for subbing in. But if I
Yeah,
have to listen to another power metal record,
many thanks to Ace for filling in last week and mostly for trolling Abdullah by making him listen to
yeah.
amazing power metal.
Oh my god. No, but yeah, I know I kid and we say like, oh, power metal, whatever. It's like really Ace, he was a champ for jumping in and subbing in
Absolutely.
for Mansour. Obviously, we would love to have him again, and hopefully we will at some point. And hopefully with
Definitely.
less power, maybe with more power metal. Maybe maybe that's what we need. A little bit of more power metal in this podcast, or not. Hopefully not. In any case, welcome back, Mansour. It's good to have you again.
Thank
You.
you.
Man, yeah, I think you missed out on a few releases here and there. The new Poopa Slicer wasn't bad. You should
Hmm.
the new Poopa Slicer. You should give it a listen.
Oh God, you guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold that against you for forever.
I
But
know.
yeah. So listen, we have a lot to go through. I always say this every week that we have a lot to go through. But honestly, this week we have so much music and a main topic, and there's a lot of like local releases this week, and there's so much of them that we couldn't fit them in today's episode. So I guess some of
Mhm.
them will leak and bleed into the next episode.
Yeah.
But in any case, we're going to quickly go through some news. We have some news from Black Sabbath, some really funny news from Metallica. When it comes to music, Mansour, like very quickly, let's see, what are some of the highlights from the music reviews that we're going to be doing today?
Yeah, I guess we got new music from what was it? The Creeping Death, Queens of the Stone Age, King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, and many, many, many others.
Yeah, looking forward to that. A lot of local bands as well. And then we have Mansour. Mansour did something really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to the main topic today. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about how music festivals these days are, the general state of music festival and how it's running on legacy acts and using the nostalgia factor, I guess, to make sales. Uh, but that's it for the intro. Let's kick it into the news immediately. All right, first piece of news here. This was shared by Mansour, actually. Apparently, Black Sabbath are saying that there's a possibility that they're not going to be performing anymore. And with an appropriate, as if there's a more appropriate name. I honestly, when I was reading this title, I thought I thought there was a troll that they were calling him Geezer.
Really?
But that
I mean,
is,
he's been known as Geezer since
I
God
know,
knows when.
but like I don't really pay like with the exception of a few bands here and there, I don't really pay attention much to the names of members, right?
Yeah,
But like when I was reading this, I was like, are they like making fun of him, calling him Geezer because he's old?
he's
But
an old
anyways, it's very
geezer.
appropriate, very appropriate. Geezer is saying that his Geezer band is not going to be performing anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, basically, I mean, the last Sabbath tour was supposed to be a farewell tour, and I don't know why people insist on them coming back. I mean, it was a farewell tour,
Yeah,
and honestly, just put it to rest. I mean, he's saying here, I'm gonna be 74 next month. The others are in their mid 70s, so it's the whole thing takes a toll on your body and all of that.
yeah,
So it's just like, come on, guys. I mean, they've done enough for music. They've pretty much, arguably, invented the genre. So they've been going at it for such a
that's
long
true.
time. So I mean, it's time to move on. I mean, I'm a big fan. I love their music and everything. I've seen them live on that tour, but now it's just time to move on. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, but there's something to be said. I know, I agree with you completely, 100%. Like, khalas, they're really like at this age now. But like to this day, Black Sabbath riffs are still like some of the kind of best riffs, and they still inspire like this new generation of bands, like in the sludge and kind of like slower doomy stuff. and even like there's brands like Does It Doom that still kind of use the imagery of that kind of that music and the band to kind of promote themselves and things like that. But there's speaking of that, like that's the only thing I would say is that I would really love to see Tony Iommi live. I would really like to see him perform live or play live or do any of his side projects or something, man. That guy is, his riffs are simple, but like it has like impact, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Tony Iommi, man, the guy single-handedly invented a riffing style that nobody
Yeah,
was doing at the time. You know,
yeah,
he's
absolutely.
just a great guy, great guitarist. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
time to move on,
Yeah.
basically.
Time to move on, and time to move on from this news into the next one here. I found this kind of endearing. I just loved the title. You know, Metallica got noise complaint at down the festival. Is this something serious, or is just some kind of someone like just complained and they're just blowing it out of proportion? What's happening here?
Well, apparently, some of the residents of that town where download takes place, usually, I think it's Donington or something like that. They've filed complaints apparently against Metallica because I don't know why it was too loud for them. I'm a bit surprised considering how I mean, Download Festival has been going on for ages now. That
Yeah,
location, that specific town or areas, it's been known to accommodate that festival for since the 80s, back when it was Monsters of Rock or something like that. Um, and apparently some neighbors decided to they've had enough
to file a complaint against
after
Metallica.
40 years. They've had enough of Lars' snare sound and
Yeah,
that.
yeah. He probably played some Saint Anger stuff. Yeah,
Probably.
unlike the snare, tong 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 tong. He's like, oh no, noise complaint, stop it. I'll tell you a controversial opinion though. I actually dig that snare sound. I mean, it's a pretty
Are
like
you
old
serious?
school. It's an old school death metal like sound. That's why I dig the sound of it. I didn't like the album itself was obviously like vapid. It has no value at all. But like the sound itself is pretty dope.
Oh my god!
But
But is it the right sound for Metallica? I don't think
exactly. No,
it's.
no, it's that's what I'm saying. Like it's probably like it's definitely not, but like that sound is pretty dope. Like you hear it a lot like in kind of old school kind of like death metal bands and hardcore maybe a bit.
Hmm.
But I get the sense that this happens every year. I don't know why. I have a feeling that this happens every year and they just wanted to kind of post a piece of news about it. I'm sure every year someone sends a complaint about about Download Festival being too loud.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean,
interesting it's specifically Metallica, but yeah, in any case. All right. Yeah, that's it for news. Let's get into some music, man. We have so much stuff to talk about here that's amazing. So let's get into some music, baby. All right, Mansour. First up here, we got Frozen Soul. This is a record that was recommended by you. Um,
mhm.
I dug this record. It's it plays it pretty straight with the kind of the old school or kind of the whatever the death metal kind of influences and sound. Um, there are some interesting also appearances in this album. Like there's a song featuring Matt Heafy from Trivium
Yeah,
that I thought that was interesting and kind of endearing as well. But otherwise, like, listen, like the record didn't blow me away by all means. Like, I didn't find it
yeah,
like the most amazing and impressive, death metal album that I've heard of recent time. But it was a really enjoyable listen. Like, if you're someone who's really deep into that genre and that's the kind of thing that you listen to, this is really, you can't go wrong with this. It's pretty enjoyable, solidly written. It sounds great. The riffs are pretty intense and really cool and really groovy and really interesting. I didn't like nothing in this album stood out as like kind of a negative, other than really like it doesn't really break any new grounds, right? It's not something. It's not like, for me, like bands like Undeath and Sonic Was a Bog and another album that we're going to talk about now, right now, Creeping Death and stuff like that. That does this, maybe a little bit better for me. But otherwise, overall, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. But am I going to listen to it again? Probably not. I don't know.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's a fun listen. I really enjoyed it as well. Lots of killer riffs, very much leaning towards the old school, straightforward death metal style. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's the sound, it's produced pretty well. Apparently, Matt Heafy co-produced this album
Oh, okay.
with them or something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's just a fun album to listen to if you're into like that sort of that old school approach to death metal.
Yeah.
I really like the fact that they have this theme going on. It's apparently this ice kind of theme. The
Yeah.
name of the band is Frozen Soul, obviously, and the album's Glacial Domination. The previous the previous album was called Crypt of Ice. Uh,
Okay.
so they have this theme where that's lyrically, I think as well, that where apparently the freezing temperatures somehow and death and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's I think that's a pretty maybe a new approach if you want.
I know it's cool. It's cool to have like a theme, right? It's cool to have like a kind of an idea and a theme to stick to, But I don't know if that's kind of creatively eventually will kind of put you in a corner. But it's fun. It's fun to have that, I guess, and keep going with it. Let's see.
Yeah,
Let's see. Let's see if they decide to switch themes, like down the line in the career and become fire, or
they're
something
sticking
stupid
with
like that.
ice.
Yeah, they're not gonna be Frozen Soul anymore. But anyways, yeah, enjoyable listen. If you're really into old school death metal and like with a modern sound or modern death metal or whatever, go listen to this. It's not bad at all. It's not bad at all. In any case, moving on. Next record we have here, Royal Thunder, Rebuilding the Mountain. So Royal Thunder is one of those bands that I always really wanted to get into. Every time I've heard any of their song or like a record or whatever, I just always found it too it's too old school rock sounding or old school like it's trying to like harken back to that old school sound. Like I found it a bit too try hard. This record is great. I enjoyed it, dude. I really like this record, and I don't know what it is. Or actually, no. I mean, I know what it is, but I feel that if it wasn't for her vocals, I would have found this album to be incredibly bland, and I would have probably told you this. I didn't enjoy this record at all. But dude, her vocal performance and her delivery is everything. This she like I hate to sound like I'm disregarding the other talents in this band. I mean, they're all incredible. Like I'm sure they're all great and they write great music. And obviously, their ability to write music that complements and the complements our vocals and everything. But dude, the kind of hooks and the lines and the way that she delivers the vocals, it's captivating. It's really cool. And I see myself like going back to listen to this again just to get to kind of hear it again and see if there's any like particular songs or if I end up eventually wanting to listen to their previous efforts. But really great. So it's for me, if you're a fan of, I don't know. I don't know why, but like I kept thinking of like old school like Barracuda kind of like bands like no, sorry, not the singles Barracuda. What's the name of the band that sings Barracuda?
I think you're referring to Heart.
Is it Art?
The
No, no, dude. What's their?
Heart, the band.
It's the band Art, right?
No, Heart
Heart,
with
yes, thank you.
yeah.
Exactly, Heart. I heard you say Art. Yes, Heart. So, like, if you want a more aggressive, heavier sounding Heart, then I think this is kind of like it's exactly that. It's going to fit down your alley. This kind of music, or this album in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. For me, it was the singer. Really, she was the one who stood out the most. I believe her name is Minnie Parsons. She has such a tremendous voice, like a really powerful voice.
Strong.
I mean, it's when you come across singers who just she's one of those singers like a Chris Cornell type who's just has really powerful vocals.
Sure.
Maybe Brandon Boyd and people like Mike Patton, who you can say are they're just powerful singers and they carry the band with them. Um, she's that type of singer, and she's just great. But yeah, I mean, the rest of the band, they're pretty good, but they really take a back seat. And I don't mean this in any negative way, but they take a back seat to vocals.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, musically, I was kind of hoping for more riffs.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just it's too melodic and too psychedelic, although it's good, but and it's well written. But I wanted some riffs here and there to just sort of maybe balance things out. But it's a good listen. It's they're a fun and exciting band to check out. Um, to me, songs like "Fade" and "Live to Live" were the highlights. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think I'll go back to this album again, check it out.
For sure.
Maybe it'll grow on
Yeah.
me and see.
If you're into really catchy rock kind of music that has this old school sound of that harkens back to also like a bit of older times but with a bit more modern sound and incredible vocal performances, then yeah, please, you have to check out Royal Thunder, this particular record, Rebuilding the Mountain. So yeah, it's a great record, not bad. Moving on, Creeping Death. I've been looking forward to this record, Boundless Domain. This is a record that we've talked about, um, uh, the one of there are a couple of their singles, or maybe one of their singles actually is just what we talked about. In any case, Boundless Domain is a fantastic record. Um, if it's a great, I've said this before about the singles they've released, it's a great blend of like death metal and hardcore elements and even like thrash elements to a certain extent. Very well produced, great sounding record. I love the way the drums sound on this. I love the way the guitars sound on this. Just overall really tight and really great sounding. um, the only thing I can say that I didn't enjoy about this record, I don't know. If I'm being nitpicky, if I have to say something, but maybe that I've maybe for me the highlights were the singles. I think they maybe burnt out their cards by releasing those as singles, and then I mean the rest of the record is great. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed all the other songs on this record, but I felt like the singles that they have released, so far, um, were the strongest songs on this album.
Mm.
So Boundless, so yeah, like Vitrified Earth, and I think that the last, what's the name of the last song on this album? The Common Breed. I think
Hmm.
the last song on the album. But those were like the strongest, performances and songs on this record. Yeah, what did you think of it?
I love this album. I thought it was just great from start to finish. Um, I don't know if there was one dull moment on here. I particularly songs like Creator's Turned into Prey, Intestinal Rap, which features Corpse Grinder from
Oh
Cannibal
yeah,
Corpse, apparently.
yes, great song, great song, great yeah, great performance there. Yeah,
Yeah, and Cursed, all those songs. I really dig this album. It has that, that old school feel as well, which I really love, and some great guitar melodies and solos as
yeah,
well. So but this album is just a riff fest mostly. I think it's the riffs really stand out. They don't sound very derivative uh, as like most metal does, unfortunately. But this one is just good. This one is
yeah.
just good.
They do a good job. They do a good job of writing stuff that is just like strong riffs, like you said, you know, just fun to listen to, groovy, fast, slow, really just well written all around, and it's really exciting from beginning to end. Really fun to listen to. Just if you just want a, I'm not even going to say if you're into death metal. I'm just going to say if you really want a nice heavy album to listen to, if you're into heavy
Absolutely.
metal and you want to listen to a nice heavy album with like great riffs and just a great sound, um, yeah, you have to listen to this record. And it's produced by the guitarist from Killswitch Engage, Adam Dukowitz. So, interesting fact there, and a very great sound as well. Check out Creeping Death, Boundless Domain. Next record here. Yeah, a little bit of a downer for me. So the next one here is Queens of the Stone Age, in Times New Roman. I love Queens of the Stone Age. I think we've already talked about our love for them on this podcast. For me, Era Vulgaris, like Clockwork, and uh, um, uh, their earlier records, Songs for the Deaf, stuff like that. All of that stuff, like for me, are really like you know legendary, important records, and they have some of the best songs ever written. But ever since after like Clockwork, it's been kind of a hit and miss for me with them. And I was kind of hoping to kind of get a Queens of the Stone Age that really knows how to write. You never know what you get. Sometimes you'll get the Queens of the Stone Age that writes like really catchy rock and roll tunes and rock tunes and things like that. And sometimes you'll get like really dark, really kind of melancholic kind of Queens of the Stone Age as well. In this record, I got none of them. It's a great sounding record for sure. It sounds great. I really like the way it sounded, but uh, songs are, honestly, I couldn't get into any of them. I didn't find them enjoyable. Kind of samey. I don't know how much I can take of Josh Ohm's like this style of writing that he has, where he kind of almost like moans his way through the melodies and things like that. Um, yeah, I don't know. Kind of disappointed with it. I don't know. What did you think of it? I'm curious.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed much either by this. I thought it was samey in terms of sound, tempo. I was kind of hoping for maybe an up tempo song here and there, but I
Yeah.
mean, it was at the same. Every song was more or less at the same, running at the same tempo, at the same pace. You get that typical Josh Homme kind of tone throughout. That signature sound, which is all right, which is cool. But I'm missing like some grooves and things like that
Yeah.
here and there. Some good riffs. I kind of understand, like, if you look at it in context. Yes, he's been through a lot. Josh, in the last couple of years, he went through a divorce. Apparently he's had cancer and things like that. So there is that sort of dark element to it. There's I get the feel of you know that he's kind of bummed out, like he was on like Clockwork, but he was trying to move on. That's the impression I got from the lyrics. Uh, but yeah, I mean, there are some good moments here and there, like the song "Time and Place," or "What the People Say." Songs like that were okay, were good, but the rest of the album, I don't know, it left a lot to be desired, to be honest.
Yeah. I was about to say like what the peephole say is like the only song that stood out for me. I thought it actually sounds decent and it sounds good and it's a well written song, but again, yeah, it's not something that's gonna make me come back to this record again. Kind of disappointing, but we have those old records to listen to. Anyways,
Yeah.
but if you're a big fan of the Queens of the Stone Age, I think you might really you might enjoy this. So Queens of the Stone Age in Times of New Roman, in times I keep saying of in times New Roman.
Hmm.
Check it out. Um, Last but not least here, dude, this is some album of the year material
Hmm.
right here, dude. So this record, okay, I'm not gonna say the name of the album because we're gonna go into the next episode. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so the name of the album, the band is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. The name of the record is. Let me just take a deep breath here. Petrodragonic Apocalypse or Dawn of Eternal Night and Annihilation of Planet Earth and the Beginning of Merciless Damnation.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so dude, I don't know what else to say about this record, as like other than I really loved it. You never know what you're gonna get with King Gizzard when they release a new record, and this one is their heaviest, most straight up metal and rock record that they have released. Sound wise as well, they kind of leaned into more of a less of the psychedelic stuff that they've been doing, and like this tapey sounding, kind of overly saturated sound. Although it's still there, it still has that like kind of lo-fi, a little taste of that lo-fi sound, but it's done in such a way that is really tasteful and really good. Songs wise, dude, the songs are long. It's so interesting how long the songs are on this record. They're relatively long. If you're someone who's into listens to prog metal or whatever, it's probably not that long to you. But relatively long songs, 8 minutes, 10 minutes songs, stuff like that. But they don't feel like it. You go through these songs like nothing. Like you really enjoy them because of how they're constantly throwing curveballs at you. They're constantly evolving. They're constantly changing, and they're constantly remain interesting.
Yeah.
And is it just me, or am I going crazy? But there are some songs or some parts of these songs on this album that reminds you of Tool a little bit.
Yes, I was going
Am
to
I
say
going
that.
crazy?
Yes, absolutely. Man, it's insane.
It's
It's
so
insane.
cool. And what's cool about this record is that this band like has been riding the wave of like psychedelic, like using these semitonal guitars and like these weird like sounds and madri esh, blah blah blah. And then like they released this record and they basically like give a masterclass to the metal scene on writing a metal album that is modern, that sounds really great, that does a lot of things good. There's there's even some djent elements in this album. There's like
Hmm.
progressive Tool stuff on this album. There is thrashy. It's just got everything, and it's a really good, enjoyable listen from beginning to end. Honestly, this is already like in my like this is going. I'm telling you, from now on, from now, this is going to be a album of the year material. Like I don't know if it's going to be number one, but it's going to be there for sure.
Yeah, same here, man. Absolutely. I mean, I came into this album with, I wouldn't say no expectations, but I was, as soon as I heard they're making another metal album, I was like, is this going to be Infest the Rat's Nest Part 2 or what? Because that album was more or less a straightforward thrash album. When I heard this one, it's like they decided to outdo themselves with heavier songs, more crushing riffs, and but also adding all these elements that you mentioned, like the prog elements, the gent elements, all of those things, oh, and psychedelic elements as well.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind. I love this album. Like it's just good from start to finish. Uh, Maybe with there's one song on there that I didn't like. I think it was Converge, but
Yeah.
the highlight for me was the closing track, which was Flamethrower. It's
Flamethrower.
just
Yeah. Oh my God.
oh,
Yes.
insane.
Yes.
It's just
Such a
the
great
riff.
track. Yeah.
It's just it's a mosh fest like that. That I can imagine like this album uh, just translating well live, because there are songs that are meant to be played live with the crowd chanting along, like the song Gila Monster and Supercell. Those guys, they've cracked the code of metal by doing that, honestly.
Yeah,
So I mean,
it's
great
it's
song. Yeah.
it's just such a great record, and the drumming sounds so good.
Yeah.
The drumming sounds so good on this record. I love the way it's like kind of like muted and like just attacky and very like you know uh, aggressive and like proggy and like very amazing. It's just amazing. And if
Yeah.
you want to listen to them live, like Mansour said, like there is I actually they post their performances live on YouTube, like them performing these songs live, and it's as good as whatever you hear on the record. Like they're tight performers. They're great musicians. Yeah, I really like this record, man. I don't know what
Man,
else to say other than
I got to see them live actually a few years ago
oh,
on their
really?
yeah, on their Nanagon Infinity tour, and they just blew my mind. You have to
Wow.
go see them live, man.
I have
Can't
to.
miss
Yeah, I really, this is one of those bands I want to see live so bad. If I have to nitpick, I would say that the vocals can sound samey, but
Yeah.
that's me nitpicking. And at the same time, it's the charm of the songs on this record is the way the vocal delivery is. So, but honestly, it did not get in the way of my enjoyment of this record at all. Great record. Go listen to it. King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, Petrodragonic Apocalypse, or the Dawn of Eternal Night, and Annihilation of Planet Earth, and the beginning of Merciless Damnation.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. I think we're done with the albums here. Let's move on now to the singles. And we're going to kick it off here. All right, I think we're done with the albums here. Let's move on to singles. We're going to kick it off here with probably my favorite release from this week. We got Knocked Loose. They released something called the Upon Loss singles, which is it's like basically two singles. They released two singles and they're calling it the Upon Loss singles. I love Knocked Loose is like the kind of they're like the flag bearers of modern hardcore right now. They're just so popular and they're doing it so well. And you can see why, because they do it so well and they sound so good and the music is so groovy and catchy while being aggressive and just in your face at the same time. I mean, you know that this band like performed in Coachella, right? Which is like a bizarre place for a hardcore heavy band like this to be performing. And you literally see like Billie Eilish in the background, like bobbing her head, listening to Knocked Loose. And it's like the most bizarre thing ever. But like that just shows you how good they are at writing hardcore, aggressive music that can appeal, I guess, to everyone. I don't know if it appeals to everyone, but whatever. It's like it's universally acclaimed, Two great songs. They did not go with Will Putney on this one. They've been working a lot with Will Putney like on their production recently. This one they've worked with someone else. I forget his name now. He has a weird nickname like Wizard Blood or something like that. And I'm really happy they did, because this sounds, music aside, it's always been great, but there's just this way this sounds is so in your face and so aggressive. And the thing that stands out to me is the way that kick drum sounds. There's this one song. There's a part where you just hear like the kick the kick drum going for a while on its own, and it's just so clicky, and it just doesn't sound like a typical kick drum, but it just all fits in together well. Anyways, amazing two singles. If you're into hardcore, really, you have to listen to these two songs. Amazing. I love Knocked Loose, one of my favorite bands of recent years.
Man, I'm gonna disappoint you. I didn't like this, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, musically it's good. The band sounds tight. The band, the riffs sound nice, and the drumming and all that. I just can't get past the vocals for some reason. It's too much to bear. To be honest, it's just, I don't know. He's definitely a unique vocalist, but it's just, I can't.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm not disappointed at all by that. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess. I mean, I was proven wrong. It's not for everyone, but in any case, it's for everyone except for Mansour. But yeah. Anyways, yeah. If you want to listen to a modern hardcore, two new singles from Knocked Loose, the flag bearers of modern hardcore. Go check these out. Upon Loss. I love these two songs. They're so good. All right, next song we have here is from a local release. And by local, I really mean local, so it's from Saudi. Deathless Anguish. The song is Call of Demise. So Deathless Anguish is a band that's a veteran of the local death metal scene here in Saudi. It's currently led by a gentleman. His name is Kamal. He's also the bassist from Sound of Ruby. And he also has a side project with Madani that we have recently reviewed, or we've reviewed in the past, this 80s sounding kind of 80s sounding project, rock project. In any case, Deathless Anguish is back again with a new song that also features Madani. So these guys have been collaborating a lot with each other on different projects. But yeah, this is a great example of old school influenced modern death metal band. Really well written song, very groovy. well produced as well. It sounds great. As always, I mean, Kamal has been releasing these songs at a rapid pace. I mean, I don't know if I would say rapid pace, but he's been releasing them from time to time rapidly. And they're always great. They're always fun to listen to. They're always catchy. Just great overall sound, and great writing in general. Highly recommended. If you're into death metal, and if you're someone who's as into old school death metal as Kamal is, like stuff like Morbid Angel and I don't know what stuff like that. So yeah, give it a listen. It's a really cool track.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's yeah, as you said, great songwriting, great melodic metal here, fantastic musicianship. I mean, these guys are as you said, veterans of the scene. They're seasoned musicians, and this really reflects. And on this song, I really dig it, and I'm really impressed by the high level of production here.
Yeah.
Uh, so
It's
yeah, I mean,
Kamal. It's on his own. It's kind of it's really impressive that he's doing all this on his own, and he's a one man band. He's doing all this on his own.
well, thumbs up to him, man. Really,
Yeah,
really awesome stuff.
yeah.
Really
Good
awesome.
job, Kamal. Yeah, keep it going, man. Like it's really enjoyable, and hopefully one day you can get like a band together to perform these songs live because it's a shame like if they're not. In any case, check out Deathless Anguish, Call of Demise. Next song, another let's say local regional release, regional international release. Okay, let's say regional international release. So Iman is a artist based out of Bahrain, or sorry, she's a Bahraini artist that is based out of the UK. She lives in the UK, but she's very close knitted with the local scene here. She's always collaborating with different people like Dusk, like Unmuted from Dubai. She's always collaborating with the people from the scene. In any case, she's building up to releasing an EP or an album, and she released a single called Bloodstain. It's you know it's it's a departure from the stuff that I'm used to listening to her do. So because everything that I've heard her collaborate on has been like usually metal or something close related to metal. Um, but her singles are always like she always her music is always kind of influenced by dare I say it's a lot of industrial sounding, a lot of electro sounding, kind of heavier electric and industrial sounding music. And this song is a bit more on the softer side, and does have that like again electronic industrial kind of influence. I don't know if this is going to be offensive or maybe it's not a good take, but I've felt like she's a heavier, like this song is a very heavier emotion heap. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Mm.
to me, like that's she nailed it. So it's a great song. It's a very good strong vocal performer as always. Really interesting bass line opening. Yeah, cool track. Check it out.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty interesting song. I mean, it's not in the metal genre, more in the goth industrial type of
Yeah,
genre. Uh, I like how it starts very minimalistically, and then sort of builds up with you see more elements creeping in, like drum and bass, synth, and some industrial elements. So yeah, if you're into that kind of sound, do check it out. She has a good voice too. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to add to it, but
yeah,
just do check it out.
absolutely. Check out Iman, Bloodstain by Iman. All right, next one here. We've already checked this band before on the podcast, Mutoid
Mm.
Man, featuring members of Cave In, featuring members of. Are you laughing at the artwork?
Oh man, the artwork reminds me of South Park in a way.
Yeah,
That
it's
that
very childish. Their artwork is always like very weirdly drawn and childish. But
oh god.
anyways, featuring members of Converge, the drummer is from Converge, the singer guitarist is from Cave In, and the bassist is from High on Fire. So
Oh, really cool.
yeah, it's a great kind of lineup. In any case, I'm not going to say much here. It's the same. It follows the same theme. It follows the same feel. Very aggressive punk sounding drums alongside like very rock sounding vocals and rock sounding riffing. Um, I'm not sure so far if I'm really enjoying what I'm listening to so far. I've enjoyed Mutoid Man's songs and riffs in the past, and I actually recommend you, Mansour, to listen to their previous albums. I don't know why. I feel like you would enjoy them.
Hmm.
You should check them out and tell me what your thoughts are. But so far, from what I'm listening to right now, it's okay. Let's let's see when the record comes out what I'm gonna think of it. But yeah, so far it's all right. It's good.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed this a lot. I thought there was an interesting mix of like classic metal. There's like
Yes.
that classic metal guitar sound without sounding cheesy. Like there's a classic metal that just sounds really cheesy. But they have that musically, but vocally it sounds like the singer could be from like the late '90s or early 2000s. That type of vocal style from that era.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting mix. I'm particularly fond of like the bass line, the bass solo at the end. There's that cool, really bass sound towards the end of the track,
Yeah.
which I really liked. So yeah, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, and yeah, that's why I felt like you would enjoy them and their previous records because they have this classic rock, but with like these aggressive drums, and maybe that's why it kind of is kind of appealing to me because I like their aggressive drumming style and
Mm.
how it's being mixed with like classical sounding drums. And you really hit it on the point with the vocals being like a very '90s thing because Cave In has been like been an active band for a while, and they're very '90s sounding. Like if you go listen to their older stuff and stuff like it is very '90s sounding. So I would also recommend checking them out if you really like his vocals.
Yeah.
Um, Mutoid Man, Siren Song, go check it out. All right. I'm not sure if I'm going to butcher the name of this band, the next band that we're going to talk about here, River of Nil or Nihil. Okay. So
Yeah.
Rivers of Nil, the song is called The Suborbital Blues. And I always find this band very weird with their naming and their naming convention and things like. I feel like it doesn't fit the serious sound that they have. But in any case, I guess it fits the proggy, spacey sounding song, right? And this is how I feel about the band's efforts so far. I mean, they've recently released a record called The Works. Before that, they had a record that was really enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. Um, uh, but but that's how I feel about the band. Basically, I listen to their songs. I really enjoy them. I find the technicality of it, the overall song structure, the catchiness, how well it's written, how tight it is, to be very enjoyable. But I usually end up like listening to the record once or twice and then moving on and going back to listening to other stuff that comes out or something like that. I don't end up revisiting them, which is a shame because they're a really good tight band. Like I feel like I should be paying more attention to them and listening to them more. And hopefully that will change with this new record or whatever that they decide to release. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious about your thoughts on this album. Oh, sorry, on this song on this band.
I don't know. It didn't do much for me. I thought it was. I mean, there's a high level of musicianship, the vocals, and with the mix of death and clean vocals. Really, also very powerful vocals when he's not, when the singer is not going for the death grunts.
Yeah.
But it feels a bit overproduced, honestly.
Hmm.
Like it just there's
It is
too
very
much going
polished.
on. It is
Yeah.
very polished. It feels like there's just too much going on for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. That's just my take on it.
Yeah. So this is one of those bands. I remember نحن we were making fun of bands that included a lot of saxophone in their
Mm.
music. So this is one of those bands as well that was like they. So the record before the works was called "Where the Owls Know My Name" or something like that. Okay, and that record has a lot of saxophone in it. So if you if you feel like there's too much going on, then don't listen to that record because it's on top of the too much stuff. There's also saxophone stuff going on. But in any case, go if you like prog death, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know where to put them. Like progressive
Yeah.
metal, death metal sounding bands. Then actually, Rivers of Nil is a great band to listen to. So go check them out if you haven't done so already. All right, down to our last three here. Let's try to let's go through them here. So Callous Minds, a band also that we've talked about previously. They released a new single called "Lonely Paradise." Callous Minds is a band based out of Dubai. Previously, the previous song that they released, I found the track overall to be endearing and well written and all of that, but it wasn't for me. Generally speaking, I'm not into this new generation of prog, like what they call prog metal or whatever. Rarely though, there's bands like Spirit Box, like Era. There's a few bands that stand out in my mind that I would actually actively go and listen to. Tesseract, for example, stuff like that. But um, this new stuff like the Periphery stuff, and I don't know, I don't enjoy it. But to my surprise, I really enjoyed this song. I thought it was pretty good. It was heavy. It's pretty groovy, and just you know, written to the point that it's just like I said, groovy, gets your attention, gets you going. You can't help but like kind of bob your head to it or headbang to it or whatever, like that kind of effect. So definitely enjoyed it much better than their previous efforts. Looking forward to any of the new releases or this new record that they're going to put out. Hopefully, it has more of this kind of stuff, right? Again, as well, just one last point. Very well produced. They're really on point with their production on the songs that they've been releasing.
Yeah, I'm with you on the production part, definitely. Sorry, the riffs as well. The song structure is pretty good. Very modern metal sounding. Record, very chunky riffs, very heavy. It sounds very down tuned, if I'm not mistaken.
They're probably they're probably an extended range band. I'm sure they use seven strings. Like
Yeah.
that's probably their jam.
Okay. I mean, you definitely get that from the guitar tone and everything.
Yeah,
The singer is wild. I like the vocals.
strong performer.
It's very, very strong. So, yeah, I mean, if you're into that modern metal, very modern metal, I'd say check these guys out.
Absolutely. Callous Minds from Dubai, Lonely Paradise. Check it out. All right, next release here we have is okay. So the artist he's a solo artist. His name is Dead Leaf. He released a song called "Complete Impermanence," and it features a vocalist that goes by the name of Failure Dead. All right, a lot of interesting names going on there, but um, so Deadleaf is usually I've gone through his discography or through his back catalog. He's usually an instrumentalist, unless he collaborates with someone like he did here. But it's usually like solo instrumental kind of sounding, very heavily down tuned. He uses baritone guitars to down tune the hell out of his guitars and everything like that. That's the kind of sound that he goes for. Very industrial sounding, very modern sounding. So that's his vibe. That's his overall general vibe and sound. So the song itself is not bad. Okay, it's a pretty good effort, and it's pretty. The riffs are chunky, the riffs are heavy and aggressive, and everything is done well. It's just that I was really surprised by the lack of impact in the production itself. It just felt, for someone I follow him on Instagram, and I see like how, the impact of the riffs that he does and the strong riffs that he makes on all of that. But the production itself doesn't do it any favors, unfortunately. It feels like this should have cooked a little bit longer in production and kind of mixing valley, to just bring those guitars a bit more forward, and just make it a heavier, more impactful mix. That's all. Otherwise, the song is great. It's well written and pretty aggressive.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed this. To be honest, I thought it was pretty interesting. It's not something you hear, at least from my experience. It's not the type of music you hear coming out from this region. I like the disgusting vocals, the heavy riffs. I like the fact that it's not too polished production wise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of some old school industrial metal bands. Uh, because there are some like modern electronic elements here and there. Uh, so yeah, overall, I thought it was a pretty interesting track.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Interesting track. It's just that I feel like I wish those guitars were a bit more forward, a bit more. There's a bit more impact there. But otherwise, great track. Go check it out. Dead Leaf, Complete Impermanence, featuring Failure Dead. All right, next track here and final track we're gonna talk about for today. Local post-hardcore band, License to Kill. The song is called Despair. Um, Great overall track. Okay, really enjoyed it. Love. The really thing that stood out for me the most here is the way the track opens. I really like when I mean opens, I mean the part where he screams into the verse, right? Like the verse itself, like very strong, well written. I really like these are the strongest points for me in the song. However, I don't mean to sound overly critical here, but there are parts of the song that feels like, first of all, production wise, it should have, maybe been mixed a little bit better. It should have been, taking your time a little bit with listening to it and mixing it. And the second thing is the tightness of the performance. There were some parts where you can hear that there are, like there's just a lack of overall tightness. It needed another take. There was some things that ended up on this song or being published that needed just another take to just make sure that it's tight and it fits. But otherwise, great effort, great sound, and I know that I said needed more time in production, but production wise as well, mix wise, it doesn't sound too bad. It's just that there are some parts here and there that needed more time, I guess. Yeah, well, what did you think of it, Mansour?
Yeah, I thought it was all right. It didn't blow my mind. I liked the musicianship and all of that. Uh, yeah, I thought it was a good effort overall.
Yeah.
Production wise, I thought it was all right too. I mean, it didn't blow my mind in that sense, but I do see potential in this band for sure. I would check
Yeah.
out their other tracks too.
I mean, they only have one other track, and definitely they're improving. With every track they release, they've been getting better and better. So yeah, I mean, definitely, I would recommend if you're into like this post-hardcore sound, to go check out License to Kill, Despair. If you're gonna search them up on Spotify, make sure that you write L.T.K so they show up for you. And with that, it is a wrap on music. That was a lot to go through. I feel like I've just went through a marathon, dude. But
Yeah.
in any case, that was a lot of fun. So some good releases this week. Let's move on now to our main topic here. And I'm not sure what's going to happen, guys, but I'm looking forward to it. All right, so for our main topic this week, Mansour picked this one, and it's a really interesting topic. So apparently, the general feeling that music festivals have been relying on a lot of legacy acts, right? On legacy acts and older bands in order to build the kind of lineup of bands. And then he says, Abdullah, I made an Excel sheet, and I want to share this. I want to talk about this Excel sheet.
Yes, because this boomer knows how to use Excel. That's why.
it's like Abdullah, why did we start this podcast? I want something to de-stress, from work and just looking at Excel sheets all day and doing reports. I just need something for me, Abdullah, okay? I just need something for me to do away from work, from desk. Anyways, here's an Excel sheet of breaking down why festivals are relying too much on legacy acts.
That's
But
right. I'm gonna hit you guys with an Excel sheet. A bunch of those too, actually. Oh
طب
man.
Mansour, why don't you tell us what are we in for right now? I think all I know is that this is the main topic, and all I know is that there's an Excel sheet. What's going on here, dude? This
So
is so
so
unmetal.
it's so unmetal. I'm taking you guys to nerd territory. Oh god. So yeah, I mean, basically, I've been hearing this a lot. We've been reading this a lot about how metal festivals are just relying too much on legacy acts, as you said. Uh, so I decided to go on a bit of an analysis. Now, let me preface this by saying it's very amateur, very uh, it's a very quick desktop research. Uh, so I decided to play around with Excel and see where it takes me. So basically, what I did was I looked at three different festivals in Grasspop and in Hellfest that takes place in France and Download Festival. Like these are some of the uh, biggest metal festivals around. Now, let me preface this by saying that again, I looked at only the three main headlining acts from each festival since 2010. Okay, and the reason I went that far back is because in
Jeez.
2020 and 21, the metal festivals obviously were all canceled and put on hold because of the situation back then, COVID
Yeah.
and all. So just
I'm
to,
just gonna say, like in 2019, Within Temptation were headliners.
yeah, for some
What?
reason, yeah, at Grass Pop.
That's ridiculous. All right, I'm sorry. I don't know if there's like a lot of Within Temptation fans, but like, anyways, all right. Anyways, yeah.
So
Please go ahead.
so I compiled that as you the table here, and I color coded every band from a specific decade. So the purple is 70s, blue is for the 1980s, 1990s is red, the
Okay.
2000s are green, and the 2010s were marked in yellow.
So, for
So
example, Machine Head is a 1990s era band.
yeah,
Is that correct? Okay.
because
Slipknot
they
is a
came out in the
2000s era.
90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Well, I mean, Slipknot. Here's another thing I need to quickly mention. Slipknot's first album came at the end of the '90s in '99. So, but they're to me
Yeah.
they're a 2000s band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not to get too fussy about these things.
I mean, wait, is it the untitled album, the first untitled album, did that come out in 1990? 1999, I
19.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but like,
I mean, of course they're around since the mid '90s as an
yeah, they've
underground
been around
band.
for a while, but like, yeah, whatever, end of 1999, and it's, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, I get your point.
Okay, so here's what I looked at. So from each decade, I looked at the number of bands that appeared from that decade and the total appearances they made, and how many times they've played as a main headlining act. So the main headlining act is always a selling point for every festival. So usually these festivals they have like tons of bands playing, different stages. The bigger the band, the more they get a chance to play at the bigger stage, and then you have smaller stages for the more smaller acts.
Okay.
What I found was that most of the bands, as you can see, were from the 70s and 80s and 90s. So there's a
So,
balance
Grass
here.
Pop is which festival? This takes place where?
I think Grass Pop takes place in Belgium, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All right.
But it's one of the bigger ones. But as you can see, a lot of the spots were occupied by bands like Aerosmith, Scorpions, Black Sabbath. Slipknot came a few times, Ozzy, those kind of bands. So, yeah, I mean, the number of bands from that decade were pretty much there was a balance, I'd say, except for maybe the 2000s. There's less of those bands, but how many times they've played, I think you see bands from the 70s and in 80s make a larger appearance as
Yeah.
repeat bands.
Yeah.
So this is also
These are the people with the
some.
purchasing power, I guess, right? Like the people that would come and see these bands are people with the purchasing power. Is that what it
Yeah,
is? Do you think? Yani, just because that's the kind of demographic you want to aim for, make sure that they come.
kind of. I mean, it makes sense. It would make sense that the older kind of metal fans would have more purchasing power, if you will. So they could so they could probably shell out to attend these festivals. But
And they're not cheap, by the way, right? Like these festival tickets are not cheap.
no, they're not. I mean, you get different packages, but
Yeah.
if you want to get a tent and stay in camp in those festivals, yeah, it comes with a pretty hefty
Yeah.
price tag. Uh, but yeah, I mean, you see bands from the 2000s like Slipknot and Volbeat and those kind of bands. They make an appearance here
Mm.
a few times, but it's still less than the bands in the from the 70s and 80s. And the 90s, for some reason, is always like the lowest, apart from the
Really?
2010s. Yeah, so you get like bands from the 90s like Tool and System of a Down, Rammstein or
But those are,
Rammstein.
I feel like, the ones with the most impact now. Like, although fine, they are the least represented, but
Yeah,
those are the ones that I feel like would drive more. Again, but I'm speaking from a perspective of a kid that grew up in the '90s, right?
yeah,
so, so I'm a little bit biased, right? So, but I'm also biased because I feel like when I talk to younger generation of metalheads on my Instagram and or hatta we, when we follow each other and I see them posting about their favorite bands from these older eras, they're always posting about Slipknot, they're always posting about Limp Bizkit, they're always posting about Deftones. So يعني System of a Down, obviously, all these kind of bands, Static X. So like to me, I feel like the '90s era music is the one that's like driving the most kind of impact or getting the most attention or the most it has the most marketing power to drive sales for
yeah.
these festivals.
But I mean, but you see, most of the bands are from, and the repeat bands are from the 80s and the 70s. Your
Yeah.
Aerosmiths, your Black Sabbaths, your Scorpions, Iron Maiden, all those bands keep on appearing on those festivals again and again, and it's wild because like you see from the like it's just the percentages don't lie, and but these
Because
are just
these are the
main
people with the
headliners.
money. These are literally, isn't that it? Like how
Yeah,
much is
but
a ticket? Like let's say like I want to buy a ticket to um let's say this is Hellfest.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they cost. I haven't looked at the prices, but it's crazy because um, look, at the end of the day, bands like those legacy bands like Iron Maiden and Sabbath, they can go on arena tours and sell out those tours on their own. Like they
Yeah.
could fill out those kind of venues. Slipknot as well, Linkin Park as well. Back when, obviously, when they were active. Uh, but the newer acts, I don't know if that's the case. But if you look at Download Festival, this year placed they've placed Bring Me the Horizon as one of the main headlining as the main headlining act on one of those days. Uh, they're trying to draw in a more younger crowd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it speaks volumes about the state of those festivals. But here's the thing: bands like we discussed Black Sabbath, they're no longer touring. Aerosmith, Kiss, those kind of bands are now on their farewell tours. Um, I don't know how long Iron Maiden will go on, probably for a couple of
Forever.
years more, forever, forever probably.
They're gonna drag their like corpses on stage like with tubes attached. Like, make money for it's like there's someone in the back like operating like a joystick and buttons, like just making Bruce Dickinson like dance on stage.
Oh man, like puppets
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, so once those bands go away, that maybe they'll make room for other legacy acts like Tool or System of a Down or those type of bands, but
Yeah.
those bands don't tour that much anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just
But it's interesting as well to look at, for example, okay, so these are all predominantly European festivals.
yeah.
Yeah, I would be interested to see American festivals. What are they doing? Are they also like focusing on 80s bands? I feel like it's a very European thing to be focusing on like these kind of older 80s and 70s band like the Scorpions or Madresh or Iron Maiden.
The thing is, like with the European festivals, they try to accommodate bands from different genres and different eras, especially the summer festivals. A lot of bands go and tour those festivals because, that's their bread and butter. They need, it's, metal is just bigger in Europe than it
Yeah.
is in the States. Uh, but if you take it, individually, country by country, maybe not. But as a continent, as a region, it's metal is definitely bigger in Europe. Uh, and
Yeah.
the States, I don't know what kind of metal festivals. There was Ozfest, and
Yeah, I
there's
don't know. Exactly. I
Melfest,
was
but
just about to say, like, are there? It's the recent festivals, like when we were young and stuff like that.
I don't. I mean, they stopped Ozfest a long time ago. I think Notfest happens from time to time. I'm not
Yeah,
too
yeah.
familiar with.
No, but no. I just realized what just happened. No, there's literally a festival called When We Were Young.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah. So it's something like that. Or Sick New World. Isn't that another
Okay.
festival?
That does sound familiar, to be
Yeah.
honest.
So these are like these are like the festivals that are kind of happening right now in the States. And I
Oh,
wonder if
cool.
they have that like 80s kind of influenced lineup. I don't think so. I remember looking at it; it was all mainly like older, like post rock, emo. I mean, I just opened up the poster. May 13th, 2023, Las Vegas, Sick New World. I'm just gonna quickly read up some of the lineup here. Yeah, it's a dude, it's a European thing, okay? It's a
Yeah.
European thing to look at like 80s metal bands and like 70s and whatever. So look at this: System of a Down, Korn, Deftones, Incubus, Chevelle, Evanescence, Death Grips, Flyleaf, Mr. Bungle,
Mm.
Cold Chamber, Skinny Puppy, Pod, KMFDM, Soulfly, Lacuna Coil, Health, Melvins.
Yeah. Yeah.
So mainly like 90s وانت طالع, like it's not, it doesn't feel like it's, I mean, okay, Melvin's probably older than that, but like, but still, like it's very much like a 90s um era dream for someone to attend.
Yeah, I mean, you have those kind of festivals, I think, in the States that are more genre focused or subgenre focused. Like a lot of the bands that you mentioned that are playing there are very, I think, 2000s and 90s and above. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any act from the 80s. You have more festivals that are focused on subgenres, like Maryland Death Fest is one of them, which
Yeah.
obviously is for death metal bands. In Europe, there's Roadburn Festival for like more of the post metal, stoner type of acts. All those
Yeah.
type of progressive kind of metal bands. It's more underground though. So you
Yeah.
have all these little kind of specialized festivals as well. But the ones that I mentioned are supposed to be like the Download Festival, Hellfest, all those kind of festivals are supposed to be like the bigger, more cream of the crop type of festivals that go on for
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. And
Um,
I guess also just to drive the point, maybe again, like, because if you keep making festivals that are aimed at the younger audience, I don't think they'll sell because ticket prices have become prohibitively expensive. I mean, I was just looking at the prices for Hellfest. So Hellfest, a general admission ticket at Healthfest is £300, £300 British pounds. And then if you want um, passes with camping or مدري إيش, then this goes up to like 700 pounds and things like that.
yeah, so that's like a vacation budget, right? For
Exactly. Yeah. And imagine like if you're a kid, like you're 18 years old or مدري إيش, or you're in college, like unless you're well off or whatever. Like you're not going to be spending that kind of money,
Yeah.
or barely. Like you're going to barely get enough people that are spending that kind of money if you're just aiming at the younger audience. Sick New World, the gig that I was just the concert or the festival I was just telling you about. That's also like similarly priced. The cheapest ticket, general admission ticket that you can get, which is now is on a waiting list, is going to be $300. It's $279 or $280. But then you have like hotel packages, madresh, blah, blah, VIP.
Yeah, and that's not counting, of course, all the other money that you'll spend maybe in the festival with merch,
Yeah,
food and
food.
drinks,
Yeah,
all of that stuff. You know.
but it's interesting. Download is more. It seems like based on this analysis, it's more focused on the 2000s era.
Yeah, so I feel like Download tried to draw in like a younger crowd, so that's why maybe they have Bring Me the Horizon as one of the bands that are headlining this year.
Yeah,
Uh, Slipknot's obviously a more legacy type of they're pretty much a legacy act
yeah,
at
they're
this
pretty much
point.
legacy at this point.
But it was interesting at Hellfest. The only band from the I think it was at Hellfest. The only band from the 2010s was Ghost. They headlined one
Oh,
night. So they're the only band literally from the 2010s. Is there really no other band from that decade that could headline a festival? Because that if that's the case, then that would be pretty sad. It'd be a sad state of affairs for metal.
2010. Oh man, yeah. I don't know. Wait, what bands can headline festivals in 2010? Like that started in the tens. I don't know.
Ghost, I think they can because they're
I
selling
mean,
big venues.
yeah. No, they
But
definitely.
other than that, I can't think of
I
one
mean,
band from that decade.
there are modern bands that can do this. Okay, so Bring Me the I don't know when did Bring Me Horizon start. Did they start in 2010s? No, they're
2000s.
2000s. Yeah. Um, there's another band called Blood Omen.
Okay, but can they
Uh,
headline a major festival like
oh
Download?
yeah, they can.
Oh yeah.
They can. No, they're not called Blood Omen. Bad Omen. Sorry. So
Oh,
Bad Omen can definitely um, headline a festival for sure. They've did like if you go look at their streams online, they look at how popular they are, like the amount of time their songs are used on TikTok and everything. They are
hmm.
huge.
Okay.
So definitely the one of those bands that you can definitely put them to headline a festival.
I think if Sleep Token gets bigger, they probably have a good chance of maybe
Sleep
headlining
Token,
because
that's a good example, actually. Yes, Sleep Token, I think, are already there. Um, in the last episode, we were talking. I don't know if we talked about this in the last episode, but yeah, like they're one of those bands that when they put up their tickets for sale, like they immediately sold like hundreds. What was it like tens of thousands of tickets, which was something like that.
yeah,
Kind
Wembley,
of,
man, they sold out
yeah.
Wembley, which is one of the bigger venues in the UK.
That's huge. Like imagine like a modern metal band doing that. I mean, obviously they're able to do that because they're very accessible. They're not very, but I mean that's what it takes. And they write good music, catchy music, and you know they're able to do it. They're able to sell out venues like that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we get to see more bands from the last 2 decades headline. But of course, I mean, it's still cool to see bands like Slipknot and System of a Down from the 2000s and 90s bands like Tool still going strong live. But when I was thinking about it, what about like other genres like pop and hip hop? I think they have their own legacy acts, but usually with like pop acts, they tend to headline like the bigger festivals in the states, like Coachella and those
Yeah,
kind of festivals. But then I was thinking, the thing is, like with metal bands, uh, they can go on for longer because it's a band. So if one member of the band dies, they can replace it with another member and move on, like Slipknot did with when their bassist passed away.
bassist die. Yeah,
Yeah, and same with you know uh, Kiss. I think there are only two original members left. So metal bands can replace their all their parts add new talent and continue on. You know
And
what I
just keep
mean?
going. Yeah.
And keep going with like hip hop acts. You know, if most of them are solo acts, so once they die,
Yeah.
that's it.
I mean, geez, there are examples of metal bands that have none of the original band members in them.
Yeah.
There's a band called Zao. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but Zao is one of those infamously like they I think none of the original members are in the
Yeah,
band.
Nick on Death as well. None of the members there are original members.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's such a funny thing.
Yeah.
But in any case, Mansour, thank you very much for this analysis. It's really it created such a riveting conversation, um, and it's an interesting thing to look at. Honestly, it's just yeah, I owe it. Like my main takeaway from this is that Europeans love their older metal stuff, and Americans love their '90s era, like going up kind of metal, and that obviously because of the how pricey these tickets are, they need to kind of target a specific type of audience. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe one day we'll see a festival in Saudi. Who
Maybe.
knows? Maybe we'll see
Or
like a festival.
debate. Bring back Desert Rock.
Bring back Desert Rock. Bring back Desert Rock, please. Actually, it'd be great if they bring back Desert Rock. I would really like it. That's it for us today, Mansour. I think it was a riveting episode. A lot of thought-provoking conversations happened here, and I hope the 5 members of the audience that are listening agree with us.
Definitely.
You guys need to remember that you can always email us at hate.mail@antishuffle.com. That's hate.mail@antishuffle.com. If you have any interesting piece of news that you want us to talk about, if you're a band with a demo, or if you're a band with any kind of piece of news that you want to share with us, please don't be shy. Shoot us an email and send us that piece of news or whatever it is. You can also follow us on our social media stuff. We're available wherever. Not wherever, okay? We're available on certain platforms, okay? All you have to do is search for Anti-Shuffle Pod. That is at Anti-Shuffle Pod to find us.
Definitely.
And with that being said, this has been wonderful. Thank you guys for joining us. Please tune back in the next episode. Share, subscribe, like, and talk about us. Tell your friends about us. Tell your mom. Tell your dad. And we will see you in the next episode. I have been Abdullah, also known as Muzej. And with me, as always, Mansour.
See you next week. Thank you.
See you next week. And stay against the shuffle. Ma salam.